you so much for joining me on the Creative Awakening Now podcast. I'm your host, David Matters, and I'm here to bring you stories, interviews, and insights relating to the topics of creativity, inspiration, and practice. My intention is to connect with other people who employ a heart-centered approach to the artistic process and to share this profoundly inspiring content with anyone who cares to hear it. I hope you enjoy. This is a dream, and a dream is never the same. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Creative Awakening Now podcast. I am doing a solo show this episode, and like I said before, I'm kind of trying to incorporate these more and more, just some thoughts and feelings, and I had a lot to talk about on this one, actually, but I want to set up a little bit what's going on here. I'm actually sitting in good old Corey, Pennsylvania, where I grew up and went to high school. It's at my dad's house. My grandma died last week, and I drove up here for the weekend, or for the rest of the week and then the weekend. It's obviously sad. My grandma died, but she's 97 years old when she went, almost 98. Lived an amazing life, was a beautiful person. So it wasn't exactly a sad occasion. It was more of a remembrance and a paying tribute and honoring, and it was really beautiful. So I'm really grateful I came up here. Got to see my nephew, Dean Danger, and my other nephew, Lincoln, and just all kinds of family and stuff. So it was really great to come up, and now I'm just chilling in the basement. Had some free time. No one's around. It's really quiet, so I figured I would do a podcast. And one of the things that I was really coming up for me kind of sparked from, I mentioned on a couple podcasts back that I went to this meditation retreat, and this is my third. In the Zen tradition, they're called sesshin, and they're these periods of intensive sitting practice, and you sit for long hours. 12 hours a day. Like, you wake up at 5 a.m., you're sitting by 5:30, and formal sitting ends by 9 p.m., 9 in the evening, and then there's also late night sitting. And every time I can, I sit up as much as I can, as long as my body will allow me. And sometimes I've sat up till 11, 12 o'clock at night. So just intensive stuff, just going deep and cutting through all of the madness in your mind, and kind of, you're using that time and that container to deepen and go inward and get past your conditioning and your programming and try and find what's in there, the essence. And, that's its whole thing that I could go on and on about, but that's not so much the point. The point being that when I sit like that, when I have gone deep into those practices and really get past my own crap, my own drama internally, my fears and insecurities and my worries and just the incessant chatter that goes on there, you really touch into something deep there. If you're willing, anybody can. If you're willing to do it, it's kind of inevitable. It's part of it. You're getting into your true nature with it. And the thing that really strikes me about those moments is it's so akin to the creative experience, the deep, inspired moments where you really put yourself wholeheartedly into your practice and you get lost in it. You get totally absorbed in it. And it's not like this, this blank out where you're just, in your thoughts. Sometimes you can pass 20, 30 minutes just sitting somewhere and not even paying attention because you're wrapped up in this whole mental drama. But when you're in your creative spree and you're really absorbed in it and you're really inspired, it's different. It's totally different. And anytime I ever talk about this with people, with serious artists, they know exactly what I'm saying. That flow state, that samadhi even, it's one-pointed. It's just you and your practice, and you're completely involved in it, and time no longer is relevant at all. Your body, you're almost disconnected from your body in a way. I've gone hours and hours playing music and not eaten, not drank anything, not even thought about it, not even, it didn't even occur to me because I was so absorbed. And that samadhi state, that flow state, that inspired state it's exactly what you're touching into with deep meditation practice. And that's my feeling about it. And the same with yoga and things like that too. I've gotten there a little bit with yoga, but my discipline is not nearly high enough. There's still too much pain and mental anguish for me to really touch into it. But I have on certain occasions. And another thing that comes up with that when you get into those states is realizing that, if you go far enough into it and you are capable of cutting through all that noise, you touch into this sort of understanding that it kind of goes beyond your normal limitations of mind, your normal insecurities and all that. Like, usually there's a roadblock, no matter how good you are, when you go and you start thinking about it enough, you hit this point where you're like, well, I'm only so good, or I'm not good enough, or whatever it is. But when you touch into these states, those good and bad, right and wrong, enough, not enough, all those dualities that we constantly are swimming in, a dualistic mindset, it really just dissolves. And those are totally irrelevant concepts. It's just you and your practice, you and your art. Really, there's not even any you anymore, and there's certainly no your art. It's just doing, it's just being. And that kind of understanding, that kind of full immersion into what you're doing is, I think, it's the point. That is the entire point of creativity. And it always has been. We get so lost in our, this whole world of gain and success, and we set up these benchmarks for what is an accomplishment or not, or what is good enough or not. And, we get lost in that. And we have these projections that we put out there, and expectations and preferences that we really desire. But when you get past all that stuff and you touch into the heart of it, none of it matters anymore. You touch it and you're absorbed in it. And even if it's just for a moment or a couple of minutes, it's totally transcendent. You go beyond all those limited ways of thinking and feeling. And, obviously you can't hold on to that. You can't take it with you when you go back into your every moment, your waking consciousness or whatever, because you're trained to have this certain kind of way of dealing with the world. And that's fine. That's just the way it is. But the more that, this is my personal discovery with it, the more that we touch into that, the more familiar we become with it, and the more accessible it becomes. And I liken it to the meditation experience, because I have, the more I do it, the more I go into it, and there are so many obstacles, there's so many challenges, mostly coming from our own mind, but pain and boredom and lethargy, being tired and being sluggish and not wanting to put yourself into it fully. And those are definite limitations. They're real things. And you have to face them, just like with your creative practice. You have to face your own kind of limited mind state, your own calloused way of thinking sometimes. But when you face them and you really put yourself into it and you overcome them, even if it's just a little bit, the more you do it, the more you do it, the more you do it. And I talked about this a little bit in the last podcast, is you kind of set up this, you're building this path, you're kind of tamping down the forest into this path that you can kind of walk through and you can see. And the pain and the insecurities and all that, it's totally part of it. It's a necessary part of it, because the first step is realizing that those things are there, that your limited way of thinking and that your insecurities are there, and that you have to overcome them, and you can overcome them. It's absolutely possible. And with that becomes this new way of practicing, new way of approaching your whole thing, whatever that thing is. And your mind changes with it, your heart changes with it. And that's the point. And really what I want to get at with this is to say that when you touch into these places, when you put yourself into it, when you practice in this way, and you're willing to look at it and you're willing to deal with it, not push it away, you realize something that maybe it's just for a moment, but it really is a profound shift. And what you realize is that, or what I have realized, I don't want to speak so boldly as to say everyone, but I have certainly realized that I am good enough. And I will be so bold to say that you are good enough. We all are good enough, because there's no definitive, absolute benchmark of what is good enough. You may have these things in your mind of like, this artist is the pinnacle of, exceptional playing or art and creativity, whatever it is. They are a master. They are a virtuoso. You may have that in your mind, that is the destination, but you're not doing yourself justice. That person's destination is not necessarily yours, and no matter how badly you want it. And I feel like you're kind of destined to fail if you are looking to reach somebody else's point and to say that is the benchmark of success. Where you are right now is the exact place you need to be to get to the next step. If that's your goal, is to get better at something, you need to fully embrace where you are currently. Fully put your heart into it and accept it for what it is. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. Like, no, maybe you're not as good as you want to be. No, you're not as, talented at this moment as somebody else in this one thing. But that isn't the point. The point is, are you passionate enough to keep going? Because if you are, then you are absolutely where you need to be. You are exactly where you need to be to start that path. You can't jump ahead. There's no shortcuts. There's no way of just kind of blasting through the difficult points. Every one of us has to go through it. And I think this is a major point that so often gets downplayed, by ourselves and by other people, by the mainstream world for sure. As far as creativity goes, we are all capable of these things. I don't believe, sometimes my mind goes back and forth with this, just depending on what it is, because I try certain things and I'm like, well, damn, I'm just not good at that. But really, it's not my passion. If I was to get into, let's say, drawing or art, visual art, like my brother, both of my brothers actually, but my older brother is a tattoo artist, and he's been doing it is literally as far back as I can remember when we were kids. And he's phenomenal at it. It's second nature for him. If I was to approach it in that way, like he did, with that passion, with that drive, that dedication, like, of course, like I or anyone else could get to that level if you practice enough with it. I don't think that he had some innate talent that made him better than other people right off the bat. I think he had determination. He had passion. He had a love for what he was doing. And he believed in himself. And this goes for all the people that I talk to who are, really doing it. And I, for myself, like, I feel that I'm certainly not where my sights are set. But, I think we all have these higher visions, but I've been so passionate about what I do for so long. And it's not just like a want, it's a yearning. I mean, it's a feeling. It's this physical yearning that drives me to want to do these things. Even when I get upset and a little bit, I don't know, you get worked up about certain things. I can't learn this song. I can't finish this song that I'm writing. I can't, this technique is too difficult for me. And you kind of just, walk away from it or get frustrated and turn your back. But I know for me, it only lasts so long. I always come back to it. I always start back over if I have to and make it happen. Whatever that thing is that I'm trying to make happen. And it just reinforces that idea that we are all completely capable of doing exactly what it is we want to do. No matter how crazy and vast that site may be. You may have to spend the next 30 years of your life practicing every single day to get to that point. But if it is a passion that you have, if it's a love that you have, then that time frame doesn't matter. It truly doesn't matter. What matters is that effort, that drive. And once you commit to it, once you see that, okay, that is it. My heart is there. I got this drive. I'm going for it. The time frame no longer matters. True masters I can't truly can't believe that they look at things in terms of like, okay, well, in the next 5 years, I want to accomplish this, this, and this. Like, sure, maybe they have an outline for it, but what they're doing is right now. Right now I'm practicing, and I'm practicing with my whole heart. And that's the second half of this, is not only just knowing that you're good enough, but you got to be willing to put your full self into it every moment. And this is something that certainly came up for me in this meditation retreat, this last one. It's just, you can't be halfway. You can't go into it with this like casual mindset of like, oh yeah, like, I don't want to talk about it in such crazy terms as, I don't mean to say crazy, but to some people maybe crazy, like enlightenment, like full awakening, full realization. If you're into the meditation, you're into Buddhism or anything of that nature, the spiritual path, you understand it. But really it's being fully awake, being fully present with every single moment, and 100% commitment. And I remember reading this quote from Suzuki Roshi. He was talking about, your practice needs to be, you can liken it to a fire. Like he says, don't be a smoky fire. You need to blaze with it. You need to burn yourself up completely. Burn as bright and as hot as you can every single moment, because this is life. Your practice is not separate from your daily life, and how you are in life is how you will be in practice, and vice versa. I fully believe that. And there's moments where these things shift. There's no straight lines here, obviously. It ebbs and it flows. But when you have that certainty of what you're doing because you have a love for it, not because you have some kind of crazy expectation of what it's going to be, you burn up completely. You burn out your insecurities. You burn out your fears. You burn out your laziness, and you just do it. Even if you're too busy, even if you're too tired, even if you got so much going on and you just need to make money and take care of the kids, like, believe me, I get it. Life is hard, and trying to be a creative person while having responsibilities is not easy. But the fact is, life is creativity. Each moment of your existence is a creative act, and it just depends. Like, do you want to be a virtuoso? Do you want to be completely into what you do and putting your whole heart into it? Do you want to have that sense of effortless mastery, where you just walk through life, each moment, boom, here I am, not planning for the future, not worrying about the past, not thinking about what could be or what I should have done, but more fully being into what you are doing right now. That, I think, is the key, is loving what you're into so much that you don't want to half-ass it. You don't want to just go into it and like, oh, I'll go through the motions, and sure, I'll get through it. I'll get through this week of meditation, like, it hurts, and it's worth it because I feel better at the end or whatever. Like, it's not the point. I truly don't believe that's the point. I think that it's right here and it's right now, and you get out what you put in. It's just basic things that we always hear that we think apply to something other than this very moment, or something other than our daily activities. But in truth, it's all the same. It's all one. There's no separation. This is a very deep realization that I've had, that I think a lot of us share, is that this is it. What you're doing is, there's nothing else. There's no tomorrow. There's no yesterday. There's no today. It's just right now. It's this. How will you face the moment that presents itself to you? And it's always shifting. It's never going to be what you want or expect or anticipate. It's always a little different, and sometimes radically different. And it's hard, man. I'll tell you what, it's hard. It's painful. But I think that there's no soothing that pain, but there is kind of merging with it and allowing that to fire your experience. And it's much deeper than just overcoming something, or getting through it, like getting past this stage of things so I can get to the next thing. It's so much more than that. I think when you merge with the moment that you're really working on, merge with the song you're writing, merge with the piece of art that you're creating, that's when true magic happens. And when you finally lift your head up from what you're doing and you reconnect with the functioning world around you, you realize, wow, I was fully in that moment. Time doesn't exist. My thoughts and fears and worries don't even exist. This is what it is, and everything else is connected to it. It's like being with a baby, like a newborn, when it's so fresh, it's so real. They're just there. They are so open and alive. And like I get to spend some time with my nephew over these last few days, and both my nephews, but little Dean Danger, he's a freshie. He's only 6 months old, and it's just, it took me right back to when my daughter was first born, and it just commands your attention, not because of their crying and their needs, which obviously are present, but it's more like they're just so amazing. They're just right there, and you don't have to try to be present with them. It's just part of it, and they are this physical incarnation of what we're talking about here. Any parent out there, I'm sure, knows what I'm talking about. If you don't have kids, you don't get it. That's totally fine. I understand. It's one of those things. But for me, it's a very real. It's a personification of this. It's just fresh awareness. It's really a beautiful thing. But anyway, I'm rambling. I get excited about these things, and I just keep going. But I want to keep these things short and concise. This is just my thought. Just touch back in and just say, you are good enough. You are capable of all that you imagine, all that your heart desires. You really are. I'm fully confident of it. If you need to talk about it, you need someone to reassure you, hit me up and we could talk about it, because I have days and days of things I could say about this, that my own experience. And it always comes and it goes. Like I said, it ebbs and flows. Life is, it's not black and white. It doesn't. It's not so easy to sum up. I get inspired and I can say things a lot, and then I get down and I can't say so many things. But it's coming back to it. That's the real work here. Remember, you're good enough. Remember that you are capable, as long as you just start from where you are and put yourself into it and burn up completely. You can find it for yourself. I guarantee it. So thank you so much for tuning in this week. Please check out what I have going on over at Creative Awakening Now. I have so much good stuff going on musically right now. I'm playing a show here tomorrow, actually, in Erie at my brother's tattoo shop, Wayward Tattoo Studios on 12th Street. Super excited about that. I got a bunch of solo stuff going on through Asheville, and also my band Life Like Water. We got a bunch of stuff coming up. I'm co-hosting a workshop May 5th in Asheville, the Violet Owl downtown. Creativity and the Spiritual Path with Stephen Nachmanovich, who I definitely think will be coming on the show very soon. He's the author of Free Play and his new book, The Art of Is. Super, super incredible stuff. Really amazing improvisational violinist as well. And his whole thing is about improvisation in life and art, and how it's related to that. The experience of improvising through music is akin to the human experience, basically. Brilliant stuff. I definitely recommend you checking out Free Play, and check out this workshop we have going on, because it's going to be super great. My teachers from the Windhorse Zen Center are going to be there doing an introduction on Zen practice and how it's connected with creativity, how meditation's connected in that way. A lot of stuff that I talk about here, they're going to be touching on in a very professional way. They've been doing this for 40-some, 50-some years, and they know what's up. So definitely, if you're interested, you can connect with me through Instagram, through Facebook, through whatever. My email, creativeawakeningnow@gmail.com. Or I have an event page on Facebook. You can check out Windhorse Zen community website, all that stuff. It's out there, so definitely check it out. May 5th, I believe we're starting at 4 p.m., and it's going to be awesome. So thank you guys once again for tuning in. We will catch you next time. Much love. Lessons